This morning is meant to continue in that direction. Marissa, are you there with us?
Hi, good morning. Hi,
Hi.
Kent. Hi, DJ Ruckus.
Morning, how you doing, Marissa?
I'm okay. How are you guys?
Good,
So
we're
far,
good.
so good, man.
So for those of us who don't understand the meaning of or what tapering is in sport, you want to give us a little insight of what tapering is?
Kent, say that again, Kent. I can't hear you clearly.
For those of us who don't understand what tapering is, can you give us a little insight of what tapering is when it comes to sport? Are you hearing me?
Marissa, are you hearing? Marissa, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about what tapering is for those of us who don't know?
All right. So tapering, and this is really continuing from our last segment with overtraining. Tapering is basically reduction of training volume. So there are so many different definitions of it, but we're looking at the common theme, which is really the reduction in training volume, the maintenance of that training, and possibly the increase in intensity. So what's really key about that is that you're doing this reduction in a predetermined timeline, right? So it's really reduction of volume. Why would you do this? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, yes, I'm listening.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, you hearing me?
Yes, so I'm saying, why would you want to do this? Why would you want to reduce the volume of your training? You would want to be able to get the athlete primed as humanly possible for their competitive event, which is actually what most elite athletes do when you're looking at very meaningful competitions. So meaningful competitions in our heads as sports scientists would be looking at the Commonwealth Games and definitely the Olympic Games, right? Not saying that it's not meaningful, the other competitions are not meaningful, but when we're looking at priming our athletes for meaningful competition, those are the two competitions that we look at. And again, it depends on the sport, it depends on the person, it depends on the performance goals. So several things to look at when we talk about tapering. It's reducing the training volume, the maintenance, and possibly increasing the training intensity so that you could actually tap into the fitness adaptations.
So how does an athlete know when to start tapering off, especially like, for instance, coming up to an Olympic Games?
Say that again, Ken, sorry?
How do the athletes know when to taper off?
How do athletes know when to taper off?
Yes.
That's a good question because it has to do with good periodization practice. And when I say good periodization practice, it means that the coach has to plan for a year or more. So you have to have that long-term planning, and you have to be able, in your long-term planning, you have to be able to allocate where are your most important competitions. So you know exactly where to have your what you call it, your tapering protocols. Now, we spoke about this the last time in terms of knowing when to or how to incorporate the analysis of the sport, to incorporate the analysis of the athlete. All these things have to be taken into consideration to know when to taper, because it differs from person to person, it differs from sport to sport, right? So this is really key. I mean, that's how they would know when to taper. The competition prior to tapering has to be meaningful, right, for the athlete and for that particular sport.
Okay, Marissa, tell me some of the risks involved with tapering. Are there any?
Say that again, sorry?
Are there any risks involved with tapering?
I'm only hearing involved in tapering.
Risks. Are there any risks?
Oh, yes. Tapering, you should not do often. And again, it depends on that meaningful competition. Not every competition. Hello?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Yes.
Right. So not every competition is going to have the same level of importance, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we know that it's leading up, if we know that we're leading up to what you call it, to the Olympics, for example. Yes, we know the qualifiers to the Olympics are important, but there's some competition that should not really be in your training plan, in your plan heading towards the Olympics, because you want to be able to peak, you want to be able to be primed for that competition that is very meaningful.
Now, for athletes, especially like this year with the cancellation of the Olympic Games, I know athletes would have been planning to find some way of tapering off closer to the Olympic Games. With the Olympics being cancelled, how do they now adjust their training, go back into a different routine?
Kent, I'm so sorry, I can't hear you too well.
He was asking, Marissa, if because the Olympics have been cancelled in a year like this one,
right?
How do athletes now have to consider that with regards to going back into a new routine to train?
How do I put this? In the sense that, one, the monitoring. Okay, if you're now going back out into training again, the first thing that I would do if I were a coach is obviously you assess the current level of the athlete. That's how you know to adjust what you've been doing before, because this was a big disruption for all sports, right? So in order for you to capitalize as to reshuffling where your tapering protocol would have been, if you know now that you have this preset now date for a competition, then you can make that adjustment. But it's going to be very difficult not knowing when a competition is going to be held, right? But all you have to do is really adjust the variables. Adjust the variables, meaning those elements that are very key in your training program, right? So this is something that the coach as well as the support staff really has to monitor and do assessments as they go along, so that they could be able to adjust where you have the tapering, when you want the athlete to peak. And you can only do that if you have a particular date for when a competition or that meaningful competition is going to be held.
Like, I'm guessing this year it's going to be really difficult for athletes, to figure out what in some way to do with, the major competitions being cancelled, what to do in terms of preparing themselves and how to prepare themselves for the long term.
To prepare themselves for, I'm just trying to figure out what you because I didn't hear part of what you said, but I understood that you said about preparing themselves for future competition. Isn't that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. You were saying that this year would be difficult for athletes to be able to prepare themselves properly because of all the
Yes, most definitely it's going to be difficult, because as I said, the knowing when a competition is going to be held, now everything hangs in the balance until it's confirmed. But there's still things that they can do, right? There is the analysis of the sport that you could be able to work on the different variables so that you could maintain for that performance, and you adjust certain things. For example, if you know, for example, there is a competition that you would want to participate in before the meaningful competition, then you could be able to adjust your program like that. But I guess is the coach's call as to how they're able to manipulate the variables that you have in the training program.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Marissa Gibson-Bailey, I want to thank you once again for taking the time to chat with us this morning, even though we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but that's all right.
Yes, we are.
Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us this morning, and of course giving us that updated information on everything that's going on with sports and sports training. And we look forward to continuing the conversation again next week.
Thank you.